Hi everyone, Trisha Pilney here, and I'm running for mayor of Layton. So thank you so much for watching another 31 Days of Layton video. Today we are talking to Zach Bluxham. Am I saying that right?
You are.
Bluxham,
yeah.
Bluxham.
Bluxham.
Yeah. Okay, and he's running.
It looks scarier than it sounds.
Okay. I'm terrible with last names because mine does really mess some people up. So Zach is running for city council here in Layton. So thank you for joining me today.
You bet. Happy.
So tell me, why are you running for city council?
So I think that Layton needs a new voice in a lot of ways. Someone that can bridge the gap between maybe some of the generations. We have a lot of older folks that live here, a lot of people who've lived in the community for a long time. And then we have a lot of people who are younger, who just moved here or just started a family here. And professionally, I am an attorney and I work in elder law. So most of my clients are over 65. So I deal with them on a daily basis, and I know kind of their issues and what they look at things and how the city government might affect them. Mm-hmm. I'm also a millennial-aged husband and father too, and I know what it feels like to do that, to try to buy a home in Layton, to try to afford a home in Layton, to try to find a way to raise a family in Layton under the circumstances that we live in. So being my personal and my professional background, I feel I can kind of talk to everybody and be able to bring everybody together. And so I think we just need some new voices, and I think that it's a kind of a new time and dynamic time for the city, and I think we need people who are really anchored here and that want to stay here and that want to try to make the community better.
So talking about that fresh new voice that actually is on my billboard that just went up today.
There you go.
Check out my Facebook because I got a picture of it on there. So one of the biggest things I hear a lot of people say is they just feel like they're not being heard.
Yeah.
So what would your plan be for not only individuals, but to be able to hear groups of people that are having issues?
Yeah, and I think you've done some good work on that with the volunteer group, just trying to get people from multiple areas of the community to come together. Because, social science shows us that there's very good knowledge in a crowd, that a crowd can come together and they can solve problems. Because everybody has specific knowledges that they're better at than others, and we have to bring people's voices together. So I would say to make people more heard, one, I want to make sure that the city council, office of which I'm running for, is accountable to the people. One in that accountability is that if I was to be elected, I would make sure that all of my votes would be publicized on a publicly accessible Facebook page or otherwise, where people can come and see not only how I voted, but why. So they wouldn't have to try to find it on the city website, which can be difficult.
Dig through everything.
Yeah, or try to find a transcript about what the discussion is. I would explain it in a way that would be understandable to people, that they could understand what the issue was. Secondly, I would want to hold monthly town hall where people can come in a very laid-back situation and circumstance, where they can come and ask questions about what's been going on this month. What was the meetings like? I wasn't able to attend because I had a church activity, or my kids had a soccer game, or whatever it might have been. People's lives are busy, and if they can maybe not come to the meetings, they could read the votes, and then maybe they could come to the town hall for even more information. And I think just making sure that people feel like they're being heard, being accountable to the people, being transparent to the people, kind of will show that you're independent of whatever situation you're in. That I don't want to go into office feeling like I'm beholden to anybody but the people that voted me there. It's not the city manager, not the city councilmen or women, not the mayor. Sorry, even if you are, become the mayor.
I am.
Right, which I am only accountable to the people who voted me in. And so I want them to be able to say, I like Zach because he listens to me, because he explains everything, and because he's respectful of my time. And even if we might disagree on certain areas, that I know that he's at least looked it over and he's researched it, and we might come to a different conclusion, but he respected my opinion.
So someone asked me the other night at the citizens debate, in a year, if you're not doing your job, how do we call you? How do we hold you accountable? And so for me, my everyday day job is building relationships, and I don't get anxiety about it a lot, but if I have a customer or a client who's not happy with me, or we're not communicating, that gives me anxiety.
Right.
And I think I just said, well, I just want to be called out on it, because if I am, I want to be able to fix it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people maybe didn't understand that, but that's just how it should be. If you're called out on something for not sticking to your word, I think you should be called out on it, for one, but being able to have the opportunity to fix it.
Right.
Because I don't see everything that's going on, so I want people to tell me, you know what, you said you're going to do this and you haven't, so why haven't you done that?
Yeah. And we're not, when we come from the business community, we're not in politics right now. We just want to be a part of the conversation. But we don't stay in business if we aren't amenable to our clients, right? And so I'm the same way. If there's a client of mine who's unhappy, that makes me, I stay up at night because I want to make sure that I can make that client happy. And so if the entire community is our client, each person, we might not always agree, but I want them to always think that I followed through with what I said. And if they have issues with me, I want them to come to the town hall, and I want them to say, look, you said you were going to do this and you didn't do it. Because Chris Moody, a guy in the community, he asked that question to both of us, I think, during the candidates debate. How I like both of you guys, is what he said, but how do I know you're going to stay the people you are? And all I can say is I am going to stay who I am, because that's just who I am as a person. And you can never know for sure, but what I can tell you is I'm honest, and that's what I'm always going to stay like.
Well, and my biggest thing is I don't ever want to say that I'm in politics, because being on city council or being mayor shouldn't be political. It should be what is right for your community.
Right.
I mean, there should be nothing political about it. There's a big difference between right and wrong, and there's always a gray area, but it's helping them, to understand what that gray area is and making the right decision for it.
Well, it's been nice at least being in a nonpartisan election, because I haven't had really anybody come up and say, what are your feelings about Donald Trump or this or that, because in the end we're all on the same team. I have people that I talk to that I know I probably disagree with on national political things, that it doesn't matter, because we're trying to make Layton the best we can, and it's a nonpartisan way, and it almost feels more familial, like it feels like a community instead of what you see on TV. And that's what's been really nice about running in this situation, is
that's the way it should be.
Yeah, I agree.
I've actually had some national politicians reach out to talk to me about some other cities I've done some work in, and as much as I completely disagree with them on where they stand on their politics nationally, these are land use issues that we're talking about, so it really is what's the highest and best use for the land. There should be nothing political about it.
Right.
And I've had some of my good friends who are maybe one way, they're like, how could you talk to somebody like that?
Right.
I'm like, well, you know what, that's what you do.
Right.
You figure out the best way to make it work.
That's how you build bridges with people, where we're all going to have differences of opinions, but that's a good thing, because I'm not so stuck in one way of thinking. I'm willing to take. I had a gentleman who sent me an email and says he had questions about the voltage or the amplification of the light fixtures on city streets. He said they were too bright, and he said, I'm part of this community that wants us to be able to have dark skies. We want to be able to see the night sky, and we don't like light pollution. And he says, what's your opinion on that? And my opinion was, I don't know enough about it to have an opinion, but why don't you send me some things, let me do some research, and I would be happy to get back to you with what my opinion might be. It might not be what you like, it might be what you like, but I don't know enough about it. Even those situations where I have done a lot of research, I am never going to come out and say that I'm all-knowing and that I know everything, because I don't. I'm willing to listen to new information, because if you have an opinion and you're presented with new information and you don't change your opinion based on that information, you're an ideologue. You're not a public servant at that point. You're not listening to anybody. And I think that's sometimes what happens when people get into politics, per se, is that they feel like, well, they're entitled to this opinion because of their office. Well, they're not. They should be willing to change in a way that benefits the community as a whole, if research or experience has shown that it needs to change.
So I have a philosophy, and I've had this since I was in college, that I think I'm somewhat intelligent, but I never want to be the smartest person in the room. Because if I'm the smartest person in the room or the smartest person on the team, that means we will not grow whatsoever.
No.
We will not come up with any new ideas. There will be no brainstorming. Usually the person who thinks they're the smartest person is the one who's like, it's my way or no way.
That's true.
And that is very frustrating to me.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think too many people who go into politics think that way.
Yeah, it's interesting when you find people, and this is what's been nice about the race I think that we're having, because we're not going against each other. So I can kind of look at the mayor's race, and you can look at the city council race. It's just as something that you're not completely invested in, at least in terms of personal gain. Is that there's a lot of diverse opinions, a lot of diverse backgrounds.
There really
but I
is.
really think that people, for all the candidates that I've talked to, have been in it for the right reasons. I don't see someone in there for reasons that seem too self-serving. I just think that we have 10 candidates for city council, 5 candidates for mayor, who just say, I'd like to stand up and I'd like to be counted. And that's a pretty brave thing to do, because it just takes a lot of your time. But if you think that you can help the community, it really is a benefit, because it's not a sacrifice, because it's you're putting yourself forward to try to help people make the city around you better with their help.
Yeah. And I've had some people ask me, well, why are you putting yourself out there like that? Well, for one, actually, I think it's a lot of fun. Doing the 31 Days of Layton has been the most fun I've had in Layton in years. I mean, there's all these other great things, but I've talked to some of the most interesting people from really different backgrounds, and it has been eye-opening to realize how diverse we are as a community. Some of the small businesses that we have are just amazing. I mean, companies from all over the world that have come to Layton to start their businesses. Yeah. And I started my company in my and now I have an office in Salt Lake. I've got one in Lehigh I go to quite a bit, and I've got my one here in Layton. And it's just amazing to see the diversity that we have.
Yeah. Well, and that shows, that you can help the community because you've had to start it from scratch. So we're not starting Layton from scratch.
No, we're not.
But what we can do is that there's going to be some issues that we hadn't had to face before, and so your experience in trying to build something from scratch will help, because we need people who can think outside the box.
So as far as some of the questions you've been getting throughout this race so far, what has been some of the toughest ones that you've had, and to really think about how to answer? What are some of those questions been, and how do you answer them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's two questions I get the most. Firstly is about the property tax increase with the fire station, and then secondly with high density housing, and what are these solutions? And I think those are two issues that they're very complex, they're very dynamic, and there's not really a soundbite that you can give people, because I think that's fair to how complex the problem is. So I can come out and say the property tax is wrong. I don't support the property tax as it's currently proposed. I just got my property tax notice in the mail today, along with my ballot.
I got mine yesterday.
Right, along with my ballot. So if that isn't a good indication of where we are, then you get your ballot on the same day you get your property tax. That's how you should vote, right? And it's not going to be an issue for me to pay. It was, between $70,000 and $80,000 or $80 a year. The 25% increase is quite a bit, because I'm worried that, not that this fire station isn't important. I think it's necessary. I think it's needed. But I want to make sure that we're not crossing the threshold in the property tax increase, because that could potentially leave room for future property tax increases.
What's the next building we need to build?
Right, because there's always going to be something that we can build and something that we can pay for. And if we haven't raised property taxes since 1987 in Layton, that is a good thing. We should treat that as a badge of honor. We shouldn't be treating that as something that are willing to just throw away and kind of cross that threshold unless we're absolutely certain. So I actually reached out to Joy Petro, to Joyce Forbes Brown, Bruce Davis, current members of the council who you're running against in the mayor's race, to get more information about what was the discussion about this, because it's really easy for me to come as a little dog nipping at someone's heels and saying property tax is wrong. My first instinct, and one of the reasons why I started running, was I wanted to oppose it. It was going to impact a lot of my clients who are elderly, who are on fixed incomes. That will affect them more than it might affect me or might affect you.
$60 is a lot when you only bring home $1,000 a month.
Yeah, you're on Social Security. You're in your home, and maybe you're paying for